Delta Stewardship Council is called to order. Chair notices the absence of a quorum. Mr. Fiorini, Mr. Nordhoff, and I are here. Other members will be here shortly. We're going to delay establishing a quorum until that happens. We'll operate as a subcommittee in the meantime. On item number 3, the chair's report, just one note for those of you who have not been paying attention. There was an interesting report yesterday by the legislative analyst on the fiscal condition in the state of California, projecting a budget year, 2013 through 2014, budget shortfall of $1.9 billion. And it's useful to remember that, was it 2 or 3 years ago, we went through a $64 billion shortfall. The analyst is projecting that by the following year, 14-15, the state will be in a net positive condition, but that is based on the assumption that no new spending is authorized. As we say in the law, fact not in evidence, or an assertion. It means the economic conditions are at least getting somewhat better in California, but there's no miracle sitting out there. Hank?
Sure, when they say no new spending, do they mean no new spending at all? It'll be level with last year, or no new spending above the 3 to 5% that they budget in there?
No, it's first of all, it's restricted to the general fund. And the general fund is less than half of total state spending. You know, the legally committed federal funds and pension funds and all the other stuff that goes on is independent of this. But on the general fund, which had a dramatic reduction during the recession, and is now under $100 million, the analyst, at least as I read the story this morning, projected that next year's budget would be at about $98 billion under present projections and present rates of spending. But it implies for general fund activity, no salary increases, no benefit increases.
No increases at all.
That's right. No, that's the assumption. And, of course, you have to make some assumptions on any projection. And that is a typical assumption that the analyst makes, while all the time noting that that's unlikely to be achieved. Yes, sir.
I think probably the best idea is to install a new tax and make it retroactive for 15 years to make sure that we
the
cover
Nordhoff
the
tax
bubble. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's see what else. For those of you who are into politics, the Democrats in the Assembly have now been awarded a 3/4 majority with the Orange County declaration that Assemblyman Chris Norby had been defeated by a Democratic challenger in the election. So arguably both houses of the legislature will at least temporarily have that level, which hasn't happened since the 1930s. And I remember that at one time famous speaker Jess Unruh had a 2/3 majority in the Assembly, and in colorful and language I will not repeat, I once heard him give a speech that said, well, it sounded great and it was okay for a while, but everybody in your caucus thinks that because you have that amount of support that they're entitled to say yes or no on anything they want. Anyway, his underlying point is that it is not the panacea, it is all assumed to be. He was quite colorful and profane in announcing and articulating the point. Anyway, that is my report, and Mr. Executive Officer.